$135 billion.
It's a staggering number. I mean,
Ah.
it's a number so large it sort of creates its own gravity.
It really does. I was looking at the Q4 earnings report this week, and I had to double check the zeros. That figure, $135 billion, is the upper limit of Meta's projected capital spending for 2026.
Yeah.
And just to give you a sense of scale, that is way more than the entire GDP of countries like Ecuador.
And it just completely demolishes the narrative we've been hearing for the last couple of years. Remember the year of efficiency?
Oh, yeah. Zuckerberg cutting costs, flattening
The
management.
whole tighten the belt era.
Right.
That is officially dead.
Ah.
Based on everything we've analyzed this week, earnings calls, internal memos, the research papers, 2026 is the year of hyperscale. They are not spending this kind of money to just, maintain things.
No.
They're pivoting the entire company towards one single massive goal.
Personal superintelligence.
Personal superintelligence. That's a heavy phrase that suggests something much more than just a chatbot that can write you a poem. Exactly. And that is really the mission of this deep dive. We're going to unpack how Meta is planning to put a digital brain in the pockets of 3.5 billion people.
And it's not just software, is it?
Not at all. We're talking about a massive physical build-out. We're talking nuclear power, fiber optics, and a brand new internal lab that is moving at a speed that, honestly, is making some competitors very nervous.
Let's start right there with that speed, because there was a leak this week about a new division, MSL. It seems to be the engine behind this new pace.
Right. Meta Superintelligence Labs. This is a critical piece of the puzzle. It was formed back in mid-2025, but the details are really just coming out now. Think of it as a specialized SEAL team for AI.
So their mandate is different from the other AI teams at Meta.
Their mandate is velocity, pure speed. I mean, in the traditional AI development cycle, think GPT-4 or Gemini, you're looking at, 18 months?
At least, yeah.
From idea to deployment. You've got data gathering, training, safety, red teaming. It's a long road. MSL just produced 2 major internal models in 6 months.
6 months? That's a third of the standard cycle. How are they moving that fast? Is it just throwing money at the problem?
Well, the money definitely helps. They apparently spent around $100 million on recruitment just to poach top talent from OpenAI and DeepMind. But it's also about the architecture. They've split the problem.
Okay.
The leak detailed 2 specific projects, Project Avocado and Project Mango.
I have to ask, who comes up with these names?
Some hungry engineers, I guess. But don't let the names fool you. The tech is serious. Project Avocado is a text-based reasoning model. It's designed for what they call System 2 thinking.
So logic, coding, complex, problem solving.
Exactly. Avocado is the deep thinker, and then Project Mango is like the sensory cortex. It handles all the visual and multimodal intelligence.
I see. So by splitting them up, they can iterate on each one way faster than trying to build one giant brain that does everything at once?
Precisely. And I'm guessing these modules will eventually talk to each other. But while MSL is working on the high-end stuff, there was another research drop on January 25th that I think is arguably even more important for their global strategy.
The omnilingual ASR.
Yes, ASR, automatic speech recognition.
Speech to text.
Right. Now, most models today are trained on, the high-resource languages, English, Mandarin, Spanish. There's tons of data. But Meta just released a framework that supports over 1,600 languages.
1,600? I didn't even realize there was enough digital data out there for that many languages.
Well, that's the whole breakthrough. About 500 of those are what we call low-resource languages. Think about dialects spoken by millions in rural India or parts of Africa where there just isn't a huge internet archive to train on.
So if the data doesn't exist, how did the AI learn them?
Through a technique called few-shot learning. Instead of needing millions of hours of audio, the model is designed to pick up on universal phonetic patterns from a tiny data set. It essentially learns to hear the structure of a language from just a few examples.
That's technically incredible. But what's the business case? Why spend all these resources on languages that probably don't have high ad revenue right now?
Because it's about the next billion users. If your goal is to deploy a personal superintelligence to the entire planet, it can't just speak English. By unlocking all these languages, Meta is building the rails to become the default operating system for the developing world. It's a massive land grab for future users.
Speaking of getting into the weeds, you also flagged something a bit more obscure in their GitHub activity, Fairchem.
Yes, this is for the more technical listeners, but it's a huge signal. Between January 27th and 29th, there was a whole flurry of activity on the Fairchem repository around something called Hessian matrix calculation.
Okay, hold on. Hessian matrix. We promised to explain the jargon. In calculus, that's about the curvature of a function, right?
That's it, exactly. Imagine you're trying to find the lowest point in the valley. The Hessian matrix basically tells you the shape of the ground you're on. Is it a steep cliff, a gentle slope?
And why does an AI model need to know the shape of the ground?
Because in chemistry and material science, which is what fair chem is for, you're trying to simulate how molecules will behave. Calculating the Hessian lets the AI predict how a chemical reaction will unfold with much, much higher precision.
So this suggests Meta isn't just focused on social media anymore. They're building AI that can do real hard science.
It all connects back to the idea of general intelligence. If you want an AI that truly understands the world, it needs to understand the physics of that world, not just the words we use to describe it. It's a signal they're looking at things like battery design, maybe even clean energy.
Which brings us perfectly to the hardware. Because you can't run these massive simulations or a global superintelligence without a ridiculous amount of power. And that takes us right back to that $135 billion number.
The physical layer. This is where the code meets concrete.
The earnings call mentioned meta compute. Is that just their fancy new name for data centers?
It's more than that. It's really a philosophy of vertical integration. Normally, a tech company buys chips from NVIDIA, cables from a supplier, cooling systems from another.
Right, they piece it together.
Meta is redesigning the plumbing itself. And the clearest example of this was the deal they announced on January 27th with Corning.
Corning, the glass company, like the Gorilla Glass on our phones.
The very same. But this isn't for phone screens. This is a deal worth up to $6 billion for fiber optic cables.
$6 billion on cables. That seems excessive.
It sounds boring, I know, until you understand the bottleneck. When you're training a frontier model like Avocado, you're linking tens of thousands of GPUs. They all have to talk to each other constantly.
It's a massive parallel processing problem.
Exactly. And if one chip finishes its job and has to wait even for a millisecond for data from another chip, your efficiency plummets. Your billion-dollar supercomputer is just sitting there idle. Standard fiber isn't fast enough.
So the Corning deal is about building a nervous system that can actually keep up with the speed of the brain.
That's the perfect analogy. And it's worth noting, this deal is creating a 15 to 20% job increase at Corning's plant in North Carolina.
So we have the brain, we have the nervous system, but what about the fuel? Power is the biggest constraint in AI right now.
It is. And Meta dropped a really significant number in the earnings call, 6.6 gigawatts.
Just for context, a large nuclear reactor produces about 1 gigawatt. So they've secured the equivalent of almost 7 nuclear power plants worth of energy.
That's the scale they're operating at. And they specifically mentioned nuclear as part of their broader strategy. They know renewables are intermittent. You can't pause a multi-billion-dollar training run because the wind stopped blowing. You need that baseload power.
It's incredible. They're basically building their own utility company to support a software product.
That's what hyperscale is all about.
But here's the tension, right? They're building this godlike infrastructure, but they have to deliver it to actual users, to teenagers, in a safe way. And this week, we saw a huge speed bump on that front. The Chen safety pause.
This was a big deal. Meta temporarily paused access to AI characters for teens globally.
And these are the personas, right? The AIs that look like celebrities or fictional characters.
Correct. And the timing here is, well, it's impossible to ignore. This pause comes right before a major trial in New Mexico about child safety on their platforms.
So they're showing they're taking it seriously, but what does the pause actually mean? Are they just shutting it down for kids?
They're retooling the models to be, and this is their phrase, PG-13 inspired. Essentially, they're tightening the refusal boundaries. If a teen tries to steer a conversation toward, say, romance or mental health crises, the AI is now being trained to hard divert the conversation to safer topics.
Like sports, hobbies.
Exactly. Hobbies, homework. It's a very difficult line to walk. If it's too restrictive, kids won't use it. If it's too open, you face lawsuits or worse.
And that problem extends to developers, too. On January 30th, Meta released version 2 of their responsible deployment guidelines.
Yeah, this is for anyone building on top of their open source llama models. And the new focus was heavily on detecting model evasion.
Model evasion, is that like jailbreaking?
It's exactly like jailbreaking. It's when a user tries to trick the model into breaking its own safety rules with clever prompts. Meta is now providing tools to help developers spot when someone is trying to hypnotize the AI.
It feels like they're trying to get ahead of the regulators, standardize safety before someone else does it for them.
That's the strategic play. It shifts some of the liability.
Let's shift to the product side then, because all this infrastructure has to actually show up on our phones. And we saw a clear pivot this week from chatbots to agents.
This is the big buzzword for 2026, but we're finally seeing it in action. The best example is on WhatsApp with their business AIs.
They're testing this in Mexico and the Philippines?
Yeah, and they reported over 1 million weekly conversations. But what's changed is the quality of those conversations. It used to be a glorified FAQ bot. What are your store hours?
Right. And now?
Now they're transactional agents. They can check real-time inventory. Do you have this shoe in a size 10? And then actually process the sale right there in the chat.
That is a huge shift. It moves the AI from being a cost center for customer service to a revenue generator for sales.
100%.
Right.
And it locks that merchant right into the Meta ecosystem.
We also saw an update for developers who want to run these things locally, the llama.cpp update on January 25th.
This is so important for the personal part of personal superintelligence.
Yeah.
Llama.cpp is a tool that lets these huge models run on consumer hardware, like a laptop or a phone.
How do you fit a brain that big onto a phone?
The update improved quantization. Think of it like MP3 compression for audio. You take this massive high-fidelity model and you strip out the bits of data that the neural network doesn't strictly need. You lose a tiny bit of precision, but you gain a massive amount of efficiency.
So my data can stay on my device instead of going to the cloud.
Yes. For privacy-conscious users, that is the holy grail.
Okay, we've covered the tech, the infra, the safety. We have to follow the money. Because the Q4 earnings, they were just staggering.
Robust. Doesn't even begin to cover it.
Yeah.
We're talking $59.89 billion in revenue, up 24% year over year.
For a company of that size, 24% growth is it's almost unheard of. And they're pointing to AI as the driver.
It's the whole engine. They revealed that their AI video generation tools, the things advertisers use to make commercials, are already at a $10 billion annual revenue run rate.
$10 billion. That's larger than Snap and Pinterest combined from one feature.
And that's just the creative side. The real money is in the ad ranking algorithms. They talked about two systems, GEM and Meta Lattice.
GEM and Lattice, break those down for us.
So GEM is the Generative Ads Recommendation Model. Lattice is the architecture. In simple terms, old ad systems just looked at your clicks. He likes shoes. GM and Lattice use generative AI to understand the context of what you're watching and predict which ad will work best for you in that specific moment.
And what were the results?
A 24% increase in incremental conversions.
That number is wild. In advertising, a 2% lift is a huge win. 24% it's earth-shattering.
It changes the economics of the entire internet.
Yeah.
If Meta's ads are that much more effective, where are you going to put your ad budget? And that flood of cash is what pays for the nuclear power plants and the fiber optics.
It's the flywheel.
It's the flywheel,
Better AI makes better ads,
which makes more money,
which buys more GPUs.
which makes better AI. It just feeds on itself.
And now they're even testing a way to charge consumers directly, that increased video creation test.
Yeah, a paid subscription inside the Meta AI app. It's their first real move to get us to pay them directly for features.
Do you think people will go for it? We're so used to Meta being free.
If the tools are good enough, yes. They noted that 10% of all daily Reels views now come from content made with their AI Edits tool. If creators are building their careers on these tools, they'll pay for premium access.
So when we step back and look at this entire week, what's the synthesis? We've got the money, the science, the hardware.
The synthesis is vertical integration. Meta is trying to own the entire stack of reality.
Walk me through that step.
Okay, start at the bottom. They're securing the energy, the electrons. Then the physical transport layer, that's the Corning fiber deal.
Yeah.
Then the silicon itself, their custom MTIA chips. Then the models, Avocado and Mango. Then the developer layer with Llama. And finally, the user interface.
Which is WhatsApp and the Ray-Ban glasses.
The glasses. They mentioned sales tripled. That is the iPhone moment they're betting everything on. The glasses see what you see, and the personal superintelligence whispers in your ear. That's the next computing platform.
It makes sense. If the AI has eyes and ears, you don't need to type anymore. It just watches and helps.
It becomes a seamless layer of intelligence over your physical world.
Which brings me to a thought I've been wrestling with all week reading this stuff. If they actually pull this off, if they give a personal superintelligence to 3.5 billion people.
We're in completely uncharted territory.
Think about it. Right now, if you and I search Google for current events, we get, roughly the same list of blue links. We share a base reality. But if we move to a world of agents, where my AI knows my history, my biases, my fears, and it curates information just for me to maximize my engagement, and your AI does the same, but differently for you.
We lose that shared baseline.
Exactly. We move from a world of objective search to a world of subjective answers.
And when the truth is whispered in your ear by an entity that's designed to keep you happy and engaged, objective reality gets very, very malleable.
If 3.5 billion people are living in 3.5 billion slightly different algorithmically curated realities,
Yeah.
how do we agree on anything?
That is the ultimate question. We're optimizing for intelligence, but we might just be sacrificing consensus along the way.
Something to think about the next time you ask your AI for the news.
Indeed.
That's our deep dive into Meta's massive week. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.